So you want to ramp up your editing skills and take it to the next level. Today I'm going to be talking about some tips and tricks in my own workflow that's worked for me in the past 3 years. But hey, we're just meeting. My name is Ian Su and this is part of an ongoing series on content creation. Last episode we broke into the world of computer editing and touched on stuff like cutting, all the components of the software, stuff like that. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's dive in and find the rest of it. Hey everyone, welcome back to More Than a Video. We're so glad you joined us for another episode. This is going to be a bit of a longer one, just like last week's. I feel that all of these episodes are just going to get progressively longer and longer, but there's just so much stuff I want to cover in this episode, and I hope you guys are getting something out of it. Thank you so much for your support these past couple weeks. We are at the halfway point. I can't believe we've already released so many episodes, but it's been a complete joy to be making these episodes, however tedious or frustrating it may be. This is my passion, and this is just something I love doing. Passion is always going to be something that's going to balance out all the frustrating parts. So in today's episode, we're going to be continuing editing. This is going to be the final episode on editing, I think. We're going to be talking a little bit more advanced editing than last week. Last week we just talked about basic editing, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. As I mentioned in the intro, always be looking for ways to make your work more efficient. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode quite a bit. We're going to be talking about some tips and tricks. We're also going to be talking about mindsets and workflows. And I'm going to be breaking down some of my own edits. And this is actually one of my edits, but we're going to be getting to my edits in just a second. I do want to talk real quick about why I switched from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. And I've actually been with Premiere for about 2 years. And by the way, this is not an episode sponsored by Blackmagic Design. So last week I talked a little bit about DaVinci Resolve and how it's a free software and how there are literally no limitations to this software, even in the free version, and that's just what I love about it. And it really outshines Premiere, or with the version that I'm using. I'm actually using CS6, so it's an older version, which is why I don't want to do a super detailed comparison, because it's not the newest version and I wouldn't be giving accurate information. So I'm not going to be doing like, oh, this is better than the other. It's just better in my situation because I'm using a very old version of Premiere, and in my case Premiere crashes on me all the time. I don't know if it does for you. I know it does for some of you, but Premiere crashes all the time. I get blue screens of death. I get not responding windows. It's just so annoying. With DaVinci I get significantly less, and it's just a workflow that I enjoy a lot more. It does take some getting used to. It's pretty similar to Premiere, but it has some differences. It's definitely been a more stable software, and especially in terms of rendering time. In Premiere, first of all, it took like 4 hours to render like one 20-minute video. If I were to render any of these episodes for More Than a Video, it would probably take about 4 hours. But DaVinci Resolve actually, if we can go over here to this edit, this is episode 3, and we go to the Deliver tab. It was completed in 8 minutes, 5 minutes, and 6 minutes, but if we run an edit in Premiere, I'm sure it would take at least more than 2 hours. Yes, so rendering time is definitely a lot faster, and this software is just more stable in general. So I betrayed Premiere, and I am now in DaVinci Resolve. That's DaVinci Resolve for you right there, and let's take a look at this edit right here. This is More Than a Video, episode 3. This was the episode where I was talking about filming and production in the process of creating a YouTube video. Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about this later on, but what I do basically when I edit my videos is I try to create a backbone for the whole thing. So in this case, the backbone, as you can see right over here, is chalkboard, chalkboard, and chalkboard. So this chalkboard is the constant in the whole thing, and basically I add titles and media on top of it. So it basically gives me an idea of what's to come, and also, of course, this voiceover is also the backbone of my edit, because it's just the one thing that I can put stuff on top of, right? So it's basically I'm stacking B-roll on top of my edit, and as you can see, this is the audio for episode 3, so if we hit play. Okay, so quick recap of what we talked about last episode. Yeah, so this is just the intro part, and then it comes to my logo sting. As you can see, I put different titles up here, and if we hit select, we can see understanding your experience level and
what you cannot accomplish.
And once it cuts here, finding inspiration, finding a niche, you know, and this is basically how I'm doing it. I'm just putting a bunch of titles on top, and often I will also put, and as you can see, there's a lot of stacking going on here. As you can see, this goes up to 9. There's 9 things going up here. So as you can see, if we zoom in, it comes in at least, I don't know, this is like a fraction of a second. It just comes in. This is just one interesting thing that I decided to add. You know, because I wanted to have the the impression of, you know, you're getting lost in everything. And if you have a bunch of stuff going around here, and every single one of these texts is, every single one of these words like year, format, what res, what frame rate, these are all different text boxes, but I put them in slightly different positions. So this one, for example, is the size is 216, and rotation and positioning is a little bit different than, say, speaking to camera or whatever. So that's just how, because I'm thinking, you know, what's the viewer thinking when he's watching this, and when he sees a bunch of text comes up, he's starting to get lost in just how fast everything's moving. And then I move on to different stuff, you know, it's easy to get lost. And this is, you know, I'm just moving on through these. And over here I have this little clip of an interview I did with Michael Chua, and I used that as a, I think it was just to bring out a point in how story is more important than fancy stuff. Okay, so then over here we come back to the gear, camera, whatever thing. So I basically just copy and pasted this right here. Again, if you move it up, there's just a bunch of stuff stacked on top of each other. So that's basically how I did that. Not too crazy. And then of course over here, I just have a photo of an iPhone, and over here in the media pool I have a bunch of bins. So I have like footages, stuff like that. If we just continue on, it looks like a very crazy edit, but it's really not a very crazy edit, because it's basically just this chalkboard and titles and photos put on top of it, but just a lot of it. So it's, again, it's very easy to get lost, especially in the edits, but as long as you have your notes and everything like that, I think you should be fine. So it's just basically text and photos. More than a video was fairly simple to edit. It's just the fact that it was a very long episode, and this isn't even one of the most crazy episodes. Let me just pull up another one. So this one was a bit of a different edit. This was episode 4, so this was the edit that I did the last time. So this is a little bit more complicated than just text and media put on top of a chalkboard, but as you can see, the chalkboard is still the constant. I'm just putting stuff on top of it. But this is a snagit recording of me explaining my edits, and as you can see, it's just cut in a lot of places because I took out a bunch of stuff. I talked about I went overboard on episode 4. I just talked about a lot of stuff that was eventually cut from the thing. So if you look at fine cut, it really looked like just this, but then I cut a lot of stuff out, so then it eventually looked like that. So like edits can get really messy, but as long as you know kind of what you're doing, and you zoom in and you look at the different parts of the edit, I think it should be fine. But if you zoom on, you're like, whoa, hold on a minute, that's just crazy. You know, like looking back at this, I have no idea how I create such a complicated edit, but if you just zoom in, it's basically just cutting, and I'm moving things up a little bit because I want more vision on things that I want to take a look at. So basically, more than a video is just a bunch of cuts, and it's normally just like one video, but like this is just like cuts, a lot of cuts. These are not all different clips, by the way. This is basically one clip cut into many different parts, and like I deleted a bunch of stuff, which is why it looks so complicated. So it's really not that complicated, but it can be very easy to get lost in these things. Okay, so now I want to move on to tips and tricks for editing. These are just a couple tips that I want to talk about when you edit. So I want to actually open a new timeline right here. This is my very, very long, this is like a 30-minute video screen recording of me explaining how editing softwares work. You probably saw that in the last episode. And as you can see, if I open up this right here, this is the audio, and the first thing I do when I look at these is I look for the audio I look at the audio waveforms and see where I have very long pauses. So let's say I'm talking, is you click file, import media, or you can do Control-I or Command-I if you are on Mac. So as you can see over here, there's a very long pause where I try to find some stuff, and that's okay. It's totally editable, where you can just cut stuff out, but that's going to require you to edit out a lot of stuff. So basically, I just look at these waveforms, stop at where the waveform starts to cut out. I just blade it, and I press the L key, so it jumps over to the next one more quickly, and I just cut that. And then what I do is I select this, I go back to the normal edit mode, and I just hit backspace, and I hit this empty space right here. I just hit delete, and then that's just cut. And that's how it gets to this, because I'm just basically hitting delete and then moving it back and just delete. So there are basically no pauses. I don't want pauses at all, because I want this to be as entertaining as possible. If there are pauses, people are going to get bored. I don't want this to be a boring video. I want this to be it's a lot of work to keep it fresh, but it will be worth it in the end. So this is what I like to call cutting to the extreme with extreme efficiency. Just cutting and just trying to keep everything as fresh as possible. And you know, don't be afraid to delete stuff that just isn't relevant. And sometimes it may be relevant, but maybe your video is getting too long. So maybe something like, let's say I talked about keyframes, and this is a very important part of my video, but I cut it out. You know, just because maybe the video is like an hour long. I don't want the video to be an hour long. Or in this case, I left the keyframes in because it really wasn't that long. In the end, it was like 20 minutes. But maybe it was something irrelevant. Maybe it's like you were talking about some gaming YouTuber who was doing this and that. And it's like you're constantly be asking yourself, do I really need this in my video? Is it really needed? And constantly be evaluating your own video and taking a look at the whole picture and like, how is this particular thing affecting my whole video in general? Like, is this a very important part of my video? Will people get it if I take this out? And is it okay if I take this out? So, you know, it's like making a movie. You know, there's a lot of deleted scenes in movies, and it's sometimes a pain to take out scenes that you like, but say honestly, like, do I really need this? Like, sometimes, especially in movies, they can't go over a certain time limit, so they have to cut out stuff, even if it's scenes that they really like. But you're trying to make this video or film or whatever it is you're working on the best it can be. So cutting out stuff, even though if it's painful, if it's something that you really wanted to be in, sometimes it's not relevant, and sometimes you need to cut it out. So don't be afraid to delete stuff. And what I do is I also put on markers for stuff that I need to remember. I didn't really use markers in this one because it's just basically cutting out stuff. But if I need to remember something, let's say there's a blank space from here to here, I can just go Control M, and that's just making a new marker. Let's just hit example, and I could put a purple marker or whatever like that. I just put it there and say like from here to here, there's a blank space. So markers help a lot, and I use markers. I tend to use markers, but not in this edit. So another tip I want to talk about is adding life to your video and making it as dynamic as possible. And something that really helps when you are making a video, especially a YouTube video, is music. So let's go over to the Fine Cut here. As you can see, I added music, right? And music is really important, especially to you know, just the whole overall vibe of your video, and it's very important. So as you can see, I have a lot of keyframes here, and what I did was this. So this is what the song sounded like. So right here where it pauses, there's a bit of a pause, and then suddenly, as you can see, it jumps, like, so there's like a dun 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 boom, and it's suddenly like this really punchy vibe. So what I wanted was, when my intro came in, so right there at that point I wanted my intro to come in, so it was like a really punchy thing, so I ended up doing that. So at this point right here, watch. So as you can see, if I play it, boom, the music comes in, right? So music adds life to your video, and it really makes your video more dynamic. So at this point right here, so as you can see in the waveform, it becomes really loud right here, and the rest of it isn't that loud. And as you can see, my keyframe went up a little bit. So this is how you can make keyframes. This is why keyframes are so important, because like it could be like quiet over here and then you move it up. We talked about keyframes last week. So music is everything, but looking for copyright free music is also very important, because you don't want to be using music that you could get in trouble with for using, or legal trouble. So I tend to use music that's copyright free, or royalty free, that is. If you get a claim for using music, you don't usually hunt you down for using that, but I don't want to claim in that because it usually means that you can't monetize. So I just use copyright free music, and I will be listing a bunch of copyright free music places down below. And now it's very hard to find music that can fit with your particular atmosphere in your video, and that's just something that's going to be very frustrating, just looking for the correct music. So music is very important, and I have a whole collection of music that I can choose from. So what I do is I just make a folder, and then I put music in, and I just collect music, and over in time I just have a lot of music that I can pick from, and it just makes my life easier. Another thing I do want to talk about is text. Okay, so this is actually a video from my channel, and I'm just gonna play this right here. It's the guy inside that asks, where to? See, as you can see, text and graphics, it's just another thing that really adds life to your video, just like music. Music and text and the video, this is the this is the perfect combination that will add life to your video. But you have to decide whether you want the text in there or not, especially for a film like this. Maybe it works in this film, but maybe it doesn't work. So you always have to be asking yourself, does this work? So it's all about thinking about what's best for this project. So maybe music often works in most projects, but text sometimes doesn't. So as you can see, I'm walking here, and then it comes over here, and there's a shot of a train, and then out of control, the text out of control comes up, and it's just something very important, because sometimes you want to emphasize things and make things more obvious. Text helps to make the things you want to emphasize more obvious. So like if I want to say like out of control or where to or whatever, stuff like that. So text can help, especially in certain scenarios like this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about shortcuts. Whenever I learn a new software, I always try to learn as many shortcut keys as possible, because, especially this is going to be a software I'm going to be spending a lot of time with. I really, really want to make my editing, or whatever it is, maybe it's Word, maybe it's Photoshop, whatever software it is, I just try to learn the shortcut keys, because that's the way that I can make my workflow more efficient. It's not just about working hard, it's about working efficiently. This combination will really help you ramp up your skills in any software. This mindset really applies to any software. So let's talk a little bit about some very basic editing shortcut keys. So when I press play, you know what, I'm going to delete this because I don't want text. So when you hit A, right, this is the normal edit mode, so you can move stuff around, whatever it is, but then you hit B and you can cut, right? So B moves to the blade tool. So, hitting a shortcut key is just makes your life more efficient, because you don't have to go search for the tool and just hit it or go move back. It's all about finding what's more efficient and what's the most efficient for you, and shortcut keys are definitely something. So let's say I'm over here, right, and I want to move over here. Instead of dragging my Play-Doh over, I can actually hit V and it just jumps over. V is jump to nearest cut. So if I have a cut right here, I hit V, it'll go over there. But if I'm over here, it'll go over there, right? So it's just jump to nearest cut. So that's just something that I've been learning recently. I'm not very familiar with the shortcuts in DaVinci yet, because I only switched over like a month ago, but I am learning it, and it's just really helpful to know the shortcuts to a software. And the last one we're gonna talk about is Control S for save and Control Z for undo. And these two are just these shortcuts A, B, V, Control Z, and Control S. These are just the shortcuts that I use every single time I edit, and it's just really helpful to know your shortcuts, because that's how you can make your project the most efficient it can be, instead of just looking for the tool, right? And finally, file organizations. Oh my goodness, I cannot stress just how important this is. Knowing where all your media is very important, because basically all your media that you have, so whether it's like this called rough cut, this is following a very, very specific file path. So if it's in desktop, it'll be local disk / desktop / rough cut, whatever it is. And if I move something away from that, I'm gonna screw up the whole edit, because I'll be seeing red. So let's say I like delete something, I'm gonna see like media offline, and you just don't want to see that. Just make sure you know where everything is and have everything organized before you start your edit, because that's just really, really important. You don't want to be moving stuff around later on and then finding out that you don't know where your particular clip is, especially if you have hundreds of clips. So go through your media, make sure you know where everything is, make sure you know where everything is in your computer as well. Editing can be a very stressful thing, it can be a very worrisome thing, so make sure you just get all of the worries out of the way by doing the hard work before, and then editing will be a breeze. Now, as I mentioned before, everybody does this differently. Even if our specific work processes are similar, even if the end product is similar, we all have different mindsets and ways that we make editing more efficient for ourselves. The road to success is by finding out what works for you and not by copying others. If what others do works for you, however, just do it. Just don't copy someone just because you think it's cool. It might be weird in the end. So I thought it might actually be helpful to bring in a second perspective through two friends of mine who also run a YouTube channel, and they will be talking about some mindsets and workflows that they use, maybe some of the pros and cons of editing. I'm so excited for this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Ishane and Lily from Liminal.
Editing. Okay, so I actually started editing probably 6 years ago in 2014. I was like, or maybe even before that, I don't know. I used to make all sorts of like little videos when I was in primary school, being my little, I don't know, 10, 9-year-old self. Yeah, so I edit on Lightworks. I've edited on it since I was super young, but most of my experience kind of came in narrative style editing. So that's as in short films or stuff like that. So I actually didn't have much experience editing stuff like YouTube videos until quite recently. So what about you, Ishay?
So I basically started in year 7 or 8. Yeah, I think mainly year 7. Oh, now coming to think about it, I did a science project in year 7 where we had to do the science space stop motion thing. So I think that was my first experience with editing. And then in year 8, our school had a multimedia elective, and that was when I picked up Premiere. And our task was basically during our school year 8 camp to film, to basically do a vlog for the school camp. And so that was probably my first video I've made, and it was kind of bad, but yeah, kind of just
are always bad.
Kind of just learned through the experience, and not that much experience with editing YouTube videos, mainly doing travel vlogs and with my family when we go traveling.
Yeah, you kind of come from more of a vlog background. For me, I've just made films for what feels like my whole life. I've made like heaps of short films, so I'm used to that style of editing, having like 10 takes of the same shot, cutting together different angles, putting in music, and trying to like really bring out emotions in the audience and tell a story. So it's definitely been an adjustment trying to learn how to do editing for YouTube videos.
Like my editing background is basically the total opposite to yours, because mine there's only that one chance, that one take, and if I miss it, that's it, you know.
Yeah, super interesting. For mine, it's like a lot of selection involved in it, and I think for YouTube it really depends on what kind of content you're making, and you have to figure out what editing style matches you, because it's kind of your whole personality as a content creator, and it's what makes your videos unique is the way you decide to edit them. Also, a thing that I've found with YouTube, you have to hold the viewer's attention. You have to cut out stuff. You can't, it's not like a movie where you'll sit down in a cinema and you'll give it 10 minutes, you'll give it 20 minutes. It's not like a play where you pay for your ticket and you go sit there.
You need to capture the attention, the viewer's attention right from the start, and kind of just sustain it through the whole video. That's what we have learned. So just a tip for any new YouTubers starting out, what we did was we actually thought about this YouTube idea for a very long time. And before we started, we kind of just went on YouTube channels, kind of like analyzed what other people are doing, how they do their thumbnails, how they edit, and then through that we kind of picked up on how spoilers at the very start of your video actually help to sustain the viewer retention. And yeah, these things really add up, and if you're aiming to get to that monetization, those viewer retention percentages really help to boost up and really help you accelerate the speed that you're gonna get to that that monetization.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know what a spoiler is, we basically recently started doing this in our videos, and our retention's gone up so much. It's basically, you've probably seen it if you watch a lot of YouTube, where you'll pick a part of the video that's particularly funny or interesting, or like a very exciting part of the video, and you just put it right at the start to grab the audience's attention and make them want to continue watching until
and kind of just identify that part, like, oh, where did that part come from?
So I think that's something that really works. I know it works for me as a viewer. If something super shocking is going to happen in the video, or something that I'm really going to want to know about, I want to hear that in the first 10 seconds, because on YouTube it's so easy. You can just close the tab, you can just go back to the home page and find a new video. So you need to figure out what makes you unique in your editing style and how you're going to grab the viewer's attention.
And it's also about not just, like, you can adapt, you can take inspiration from other YouTubers, but ultimately I think through the time as a YouTuber you kind of just pick up on your own style, develop your own like habits and routines of how you're gonna go through your editing workflow and how you want things to be like. Just let your creativity flow, and don't just copy, because that's kind of bad.
Exactly, and I think over time you're gonna build up your own style just through the smallest things, like the fonts you use, the way you cut things,
your color scheme,
the background music you like to use, your color scheme, all that kind of stuff really defines who you are as a YouTuber. And if you can figure that out over time, figure out what your audience likes, figure out what you like, I think you'll be really set for a great YouTube channel. Yep. So now we're just going to talk about a few pros and cons of the editing stage of the YouTube production process. So what do you think the pros are, Shane?
So the first pro would definitely be procrastinating homework.
That's a good one.
Oh, it takes so long to edit, but I kind of just put away all my homework and just dedicate that one day. Normally it's Thursdays to edit, because on Thursdays I've basically got a whole day of study and normally just a single period of literature.
Yeah, so which is great.
That's what
also,
I just
we like to upload
on
on Fridays, because if you go into your YouTube analytics, you can see what times your audiences are most on YouTube. So we kind of base it on that. So you kind of adapt your editing times based on when you intend to upload. So that's another little tip.
And do have a regular uploading schedule as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That really helps.
So any other pros for you of editing besides procrastinating?
It will be the satisfaction of getting a video done, because you kind of just dedicate so much time, so much effort, and even your sleep. Just sacrificing your sleep.
Oh, we lose so much sleep editing.
And just sitting down at that desk for so long, just staring at the screen, and when you're done, when everything has finally uploaded onto YouTube and you start getting the views in, it's so satisfying to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when you see the views going up for a video that you really like. It's really rewarding in that sense.
Definitely rewarding. I think also for me, like the satisfaction part of it, I just feel satisfied at the fact that I've kind of made something out of nothing. You just have like all these videos, and then you put so much time and effort into like carefully cutting them and adding in sound effects and music and all this stuff, and then you export it and it's done, and it's actually a product you can look at and be proud of and see that other people are engaging with it too. It's really rewarding. Yeah, I think you put it well.
So about the negatives.
The negatives.
We kind of touched on it a bit, but do you have any other negatives?
Yeah, I mean, the lack of sleep is definitely one of them. I think it depends on how much time you have, because I think I often find myself like, if I have a really big project to edit, you kind of procrastinate it and build it up in your head to be this like horrible, monstrous project that you have to finish. Once you start, I think it starts being really satisfying. There's always monotonous parts, and I think like life, it's a bit of a roller coaster. There's going to be great parts, there's going to be parts that you hate, but it's your own little world. And it's like when you're editing, no one else understands the struggles that you're going through editing that particular thing.
No one does.
You can try and explain it to your friends. We luckily have each other and we kind of understand each other's editing struggles.
But even the software we use is different.
Yeah.
The videos we edit are different. The way we edit we are different. So no two people
one's
edit
gonna
the same way.
Yeah. So you have to be prepared, and I think you can see this as both a pro and a con, is that when you edit, it's your own world. It's just you. Like the final product and all, like what you've made, all the decisions you've made, it's just you really. Like maybe you were informed by something else, but it's your own little world, and you share the successes and the failures with yourself really of editing.
We touched on the lack of sleep, and for me another really annoying part about editing would be the export time. I'm still kind of stuck between two softwares right now, DaVinci and Premiere Pro. Last video that I edited, I made a transition from Premiere to DaVinci, but I had so much difficulties with that. I don't know, for some reason my audio wasn't exporting along with my video, and when I kind of imported the exported DaVinci file into Premiere, it worked. So I was really confused. Our uploading time got delayed. It was a whole
There's
drama.
so many things that happen, especially with stuff like encoding, exporting, importing. There's all different formats. There's so much technical stuff that the average person is not going to understand, and even I don't understand. I've been editing for 6 years and there's still parts of it that I don't get. Like the other day I imported our audio files and we sounded like demons. We sounded like robots. The audio was going all crazy and I had to troubleshoot. I had to I had to try changing the bit rate of the video, the kilohertz, which I might sound like I'm speaking another language to you right now, but this is all stuff that you have to learn. And then I actually figured out that it was because they were MP3 files and my editing software preferred WAV files. It's just, there's a lot of stuff like that that you have to figure out as you go along. You figure it out on the way, and you have to be prepared for a lot of frustration.
For one video, and sometimes it works for one video, but it doesn't work for the other video, and you're like, but this worked previously, why does it not work now?
There's a lot of things that happen like that, and it's just something you have to get used to as an editor. And you'll work out the kinks along the way, but they're so frustrating in the moment and you feel so defeated and you just have to keep pushing on, you know?
And yeah, I'm still stuck between DaVinci and Premiere because I really like the color grading in DaVinci, but I like the workflow of Premiere. But at the same time, I hate how slow Premiere is. It slows down my entire laptop. It causes my laptop to crash. The software crashes, and then it takes like 4 hours for a single video to export. The video is probably only like 10 minutes long. It takes like 4 hours. So I basically need to dedicate an entire day for it to export. So
you have to be prepared also with, you have to think about the laptop or computer or whatever you have to edit on, because for us, our laptops, they don't suffice. They are struggling every time we edit. They start, the program's not responding, it takes like hours to export, stuff just doesn't work out on these laptops sometimes, and I think that's a possibility you have to be prepared for. I'm fortunate enough that I'm actually going to buy an editing computer now, or something that's a little bit more powerful, but yeah, it kind of all depends on stuff like your CPU and GPU, your RAM, all this really technical computer stuff. So if you don't have a super great computer like us right now, then you have to be prepared for a bit of frustration depending on what you're going to edit in.
Yeah, really do plan out your schedule. Probably your first video, actually in the first 5 videos, you get an idea about how long it's going to take you to edit, because different people edit in different speeds. For me, I am not one to use a lot of shortcuts, so I have a bit of trouble and I do take a bit of time. I'm starting to get into that shortcut.
That's good.
Memorizing shortcuts. But I normally, because with school and everything, you really do have to plan out. And I have this notepad next to me. I have a notebook and pen next to me. So I'm always jotting down what I need to do next. So where do I need to go back and change this later on tomorrow? And then like each day, what do I need to get done? Okay, so today I need to get half of this, I need to get the rough cut done today, I need to get the audio done today, and then I need to add this, I need to change the volume levels of this. I don't know, there's just heaps of stuff.
For me, it's interesting because I have a very different approach to you. I've been editing in this software for a long time, though I'm considering switching now, but that's a whole different story. So I've been editing in Lightworks since 2014. It's been 6 years, so I'm very familiar with the shortcuts and how everything works, which means I can afford to do stuff and have time that maybe Shane doesn't. Like, I can cut away like different angles, I can probably add in more effects and stuff, but it's like, that's 6 years. Like 6 years of editing is a long time on one software, and it takes a long time to get familiar with it. So I have a workflow with YouTube that I'm very used to now, and I can sit down for 4 or 5 hours and I can finish an entire video, but that's just how it works for me, and you have to figure out what your workflow is, because as you can see, it's very different for both of us. And
it is. Yeah,
it's flexible, but you have to figure out what your editing workflow and style is like. So I guess that's what I would say to take away from our little mini editing rant. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Shane?
No, I don't think so.
Alright, well, thank you so much, Ian, again for having us on your editing video as part of this amazing series. Please keep supporting Ian's videos. They're really amazing.
He's doing an awesome job.
And we think they're super underrated. They've honestly helped us so much too. We'll do our typical...
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below for this
our typical promo for Ian. That's what we say at the end of all of our videos. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Stay safe.
Bye.
And Bye.
All right, so that just about wraps up this episode. Thank you, Liminal, for your inputs. I feel that they touched on some very, very important things and aspects in the editing process, and they definitely echoed something that I said just before they came in. I was just talking about how everybody works in a different way and everybody has a different workflow, and it's all about finding out what works for you and not about copying other people's workflows. It is totally okay to take inspiration from other people and check out what do they do. Stay curious. That is a very important aspect in just this whole content creator gig, but it's all ultimately about finding out what works for you. So definitely go check out Liminal. Their channel will be linked down below, and we will be having some interesting stuff coming up in the next episodes of this series. Again, we are at the halfway point, and it's just been so fun to be working on these episodes. And comment down below, what do you think what do you guys want to see in the next coming episodes? I do have these next coming episodes planned, but there is still room open for some things that you guys may want to see. So comment down below, and definitely go give Liminal a subscribe. They are a really cool music reactions channel, and you should go check them out. So thanks for watching this video. I know it was a really, really long video, but there's just a lot of information I wanted to add. And this type of video is definitely something you can add to your watch later and, you know, reference back to when you need to. But other than that, thank you for watching this video. Liminal already said it's subscribe, like, comment down below, and we will see you next time.